So, hello everyone and Happy New Year. I hope you've had great holidays and I'm glad to welcome you on this year's first webinar. My name is Aliya Udirbaeva. I am project manager of WPK company. Today we will discuss updates on Kazakhstan migration rules in 2021. My colleague Anwar Munbayev has prepared presentation on guidelines for border crossing and stay of foreigners in Kazakhstan, which is currently in effect. And after this presentation, we will have 30 minutes Q&A session. The questions were sent to us during these 2 days upon registration for this webinar. So before we start, of course, we need to check sound. For this, please type 1 in the chat window if you can hear me and if you can see me well. So let us check. So everything's to be working okay, so we can start. Anwar, so let's start with your presentation. Anwar. Anwar?
Yes. Do you hear me well?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, let's start.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. New year started. So first of all, let me congratulate everyone with Happy New Year. Taking this opportunity, I would like to congratulate everyone with the new year and to wish so we would like to update you and guide on the current and existing requirements related to arrival and the existing requirements. So we have prepared a brief information about requirements on entry and exit of foreigners in Kazakhstan, and we'll be happy to share our expertise and opinion on these procedures. At the end of the webinar, we will review some questions and also we will have an opportunity to attendees online. So let's start the presentation. I will start the demonstration of our deck. Let me take a few moments. Yes, let's start. So as we told today, so the current presentation focused on the Kazakhstan migration rules 2021. So there were some in the beginning of this update. And before our presentation, I would like to make a brief about our company, WP Group. So we've been working in Kazakhstan 2002 and migration on our website, wpk.kz. So today we will speak about two main points: the arrival in Kazakhstan, the arrival procedure in Kazakhstan, and also departure from Kazakhstan, and Q&A session, where we will consider the most frequently asked questions and maybe some most complicated issues related to entry and stay of foreign in Kazakhstan. So let's start our presentation from the block of arrival in Kazakhstan. So we would like to update you that and arriving these a valid visa. Also, you should take a note about the issuance of entry permission of the interdepartmental committee, which is called IDC. So we will discuss about each point in more detail. Also about the IDC entry permission, and all travelers, visitors traveling to Kazakhstan should provide PCR certificate, which should be valid within 74 hours since a date of issuance. So there is some requirement when visa is not needed while traveling to Kazakhstan, like for those citizens of the countries who have bilateral agreements with Kazakhstan on visa-free travel, like, for example, Russia, Ukraine, Azerbaijan, and etc. So, as you know, there is a list of individuals who are permitted to enter Kazakhstan under existing quarantine restrictions. So among them, citizens of 12 countries, Kazakhstan has resumed direct air regular flights with. They're effective this year. There is no any change about the number of countries, but we will keep you updated if any changes are in the future. So currently 12 countries, and we will talk about the procedure of entering for these citizens of these countries later by the next slides. Foreigners granted an entry permission of the interdepartmental committee. They're also allowed to enter Kazakhstan. It should be noted that foreigners who have such kind of permission may enter Kazakhstan for business and work purposes. Usually in our practice, foreigners traveling to Kazakhstan with business and work purposes only, but also there is some purposes related to medical treatment and also to family renewal. Among the individuals who are permitted to enter Kazakhstan, also the residence permit holders and their family members, but by family members we mean the committee. So it is an updated list of individuals who are permitted to enter Kazakhstan. So approximately there's, let's say, 40 points among this list. So it is really difficult to indicate all these individuals in the presentation. So just only brief and most frequently mentioned individuals who are permitted to enter Kazakhstan. As we mentioned before, Kazakhstan has resumed direct regular air flights with 12 countries. Frankly saying, that certain countries we didn't mention about Georgia, because there is still no any direct air flight between Kazakhstan and Georgia. So only 12 countries. And citizens of these countries may travel to Kazakhstan without any restrictions. First of all, so we received a lot of questions during the beginning of this year, whether there is some information about the increasing numbers of the countries Kazakhstan resumed direct air flights with. Still no changes about in numbers of the countries. We also received questions about the visa procedures, about the IDC requirements. So we would like to pay your attention that there is no need to apply for IDC entry permission for the citizens of these countries in order to travel to Kazakhstan. You just need to keep in mind that a visa may be required for let's say, for some of the citizens like Germany, like Netherlands or Korea. So if we are talking about citizens from Russia, from Ukraine or Uzbekistan, of course, there is no need to apply for visa because there is a bilateral agreement on visa-free travel available between those countries. And also, we need to pay attention that foreigners of these 12 countries may travel to Kazakhstan by direct or transit air flights through these countries with any purpose of visit. It doesn't matter whether a foreigner traveled for work, employment purposes or business purposes. He can even travel for private or tourism purposes as well, but only related to those citizens of these 12 countries. If you are talking about the other citizens, like for example, US or Canada citizens, there is no US or Canada among this list. So unfortunately, citizens willing to travel to Kazakhstan for tourism purposes, they will not be able to travel to Kazakhstan for tourism purposes. That's why it is needed to maybe to arrange a trip related to business or to work purposes. If, let's say, a US citizen or Canadian citizen willing to work in Kazakhstan, so no restrictions in applying work visa, or also in getting a work permit in Kazakhstan, there is some requirements to countries, no needs permission to travel to Kazakhstan by air flight. It should be noted require if there is bilateral agreement between. Afraid there is some bad internet connection or is well. So just to double check before we continue.
I think we have some troubles with internet connection.
With internet.
So now it's okay.
It's okay, yes?
Let's check our sound once again. So could you just type 1 if you see us well and hear us well? Yes. Yes, Anwar, we can continue.
Okay, clear. Let's continue our presentation. One moment, please. You may also be aware about the suspension of the visa-free regime for citizens of 57 countries. So the government of Kazakhstan suspended the validity of visa waiver program for 57 countries till 1st May 2021. And unfortunately, there is no information whether the suspension will be extended as it was before, starting from November 1st till May 1st. So we also received some information about the requirements for the citizens of these countries, whether they need to apply for visa. There is some specific information. 57 countries, 90% of mostly of them will require visa to enter Kazakhstan, depending on the type of, depending on the purpose of visit. A foreigner may need, so let's say, a business visa or a work visa or investor visa. If, let's say, having some business meetings or negotiations, so it will be required to apply for business visa. If there's some work and employment purposes, so only work visa should be applied in this regard. So most of these countries, citizens of these countries require visa, except some cases, like, for example, like Turkey. So citizens of Turkey may travel to Kazakhstan for 1 month, 30 days, without any visa. But it should be noted that they may need some interdepartmental committee entry permission to travel to Kazakhstan. I apologize. Turkey does not need an IDC entry permission. Yes, because of 12 countries list, and they may travel to Kazakhstan without any visa for 30 days, as they did before. So visa-free regime for 1 month available for citizens of Turkey. Regarding other countries, so definitely they will need, citizens of these countries will need visa. And if you plan your trip to Kazakhstan for business purposes or work purposes, please pay attention to the period of stay in Kazakhstan. So we would like to draw your attention about the purposes of stay in Kazakhstan. It's like a really essential information that if you're traveling to Kazakhstan for business purposes, it doesn't mean that you can work here officially, receive any salary here, any centers. So if any employment purposes, so you need to apply for C3 work visa, which is issued for a period of 1 or 3 years, depending on the type of work permit. Usually the visa is issued for 1 year period, and there is no any limitations in period of stay in Kazakhstan. The visa is issued for multiple entries. Considering current existing restrictions, quarantine restrictions, so just keep in mind that you can travel to Kazakhstan several times. Just you need to be sure that you have an IDC entry permission for multiple entries and exits. So we'll speak about this later on. If a person travels to Kazakhstan for installation or maintenance of the equipment and need to provide some consultation services based on the contracts the company have in place, so you need to apply for B2 visa, which is issued for 6 months period of stay, 6 months validity, but the period of stay should not exceed 90 days during this 180-day period. It means that the visa is issued for multiple entries. For example, if 6 months business visa, so it will be issued for multiple entries. It means that the foreigner may travel to Kazakhstan during these 6 months, but should not exceed the total overall period of stay, 90 days. Also, the visa can be issued for 1 month for single entry, let's say for having some consultations or providing some trainings to the client in Kazakhstan. So it can be issued for 1 month of period of stay. There's also another type of visa for business purposes, like B3 visa. It is issued for business meetings and negotiations or conclusion of the contracts, and also for the representative of the board directors and shareholders. It can be issued for multiple entries and for single entries as well, and there is limits on period of stay. If let's say 1 entry visa, so only 30 days of stay in Kazakhstan is possible under this visa. If you apply for multiple business visas, so you need to keep in mind that you have only 30 days of your stay at each entry during the whole year. And one of the most, let's say, demanded a visa during the quarantine period is the visa for reunion of the family members, C2 visa, but it can be issued only if there is family members Kazakhstan citizens. So let's say a foreigner, like UK citizen, have a spouse here in Kazakhstan who is a Kazakhstan citizen. So he can apply for a visa C2, reunion visa. But there's also some special requirements to apply for a visa. Alia, if correct me if I'm wrong, the visa can be issued only if the applicants are in marriage for at least 3 years, correct?
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
Anwar, correct.
Mhm.
The marriage must be registered 3 years ago, at least 3 years ago, and confirmed by marriage certificate with date of issuance. So this is the current requirement according to migration rules.
Mhm. Thank you. And also, take into account latest changes of the IDC committee regarding the departure of foreigners, and also applying for reunion visa for the family members. If, let's say, a person started preparation and gathering of documents for this application, C2 visa application, and take into account that there's some problems with the expiration of the document, maybe apostille or legalization stamps or etc. So the immigration service departments allow foreigners to accept documents even if they're expired. So regarding the reunion family visa, if, let's say, a foreigner provides a police clearance certificate which was issued in, let's say, in August 2020, and the period of validity of this police certificate is only 6 months, so he can apply for a visa, C2 visa, even, let's say, in March 2021, submitting those documents, expired documents. So the government and immigration office departments, they're allowed to accept documents as even if they are expired, they were expired. So usually, yes, B2 business visa is like one of the most demanded visas during this tough period, and a lot of questions related to purpose of stay regarding the visa. So we just wanted to sum up that if you want to hold some trainings or some training sessions in Kazakhstan, so you can use B3 visa as most of the relevant visa for your trips in Kazakhstan. Regarding the departmental committee entry permission, it is granted for single and multiple entries and exits. So usually there is a question whether the IDC entry permission is issued for multiple exits, or we need to indicate the information about the numbers of exits and entries in the application form. Yes, I would like to confirm that it is usually issued only for single entry and exit from Kazakhstan. If you need more trips and more travels to Kazakhstan, the company, the inviting company, host company, should apply for multiple exit and entry permission to Kazakhstan. So the company should indicate the numbers of exits and entries in the application form. And based on this, the governments will decide whether to grant this entry permission for multiple entries or reject the application, or maybe, let's say, to hold on this application and to consider additionally the information submitted by the host entity. Also, it should be noted that the foreigner cannot apply for an IDC entry permission himself. So the entry permission should be obtained by the inviting company. It doesn't matter whether, let's say, a company already applied for a visa for this person or not, but the company should apply for entry permission. Usually, for example, if we see the Atrao practice, the main oil and gas operator, they apply for entry permission for the subcontractors and contractors. So usually contractors and subcontractors do not apply for entry permissions themselves. So the major oil and gas operators, they do this work themselves. So if there is no any support from the customers, from your clients, so you need to apply for entry permission on behalf of your company. So and also in practice, regarding the processing time, it may take, depending on the region, it may take from 2, 3, or 4 weeks to get approval and receive a completed and approved entry permission issued by the Interdepartmental Committee. Alia, correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I remember, no, it usually takes 2 weeks to complete the procedure if we submit documents online via eGov web portal.
Yes, 2-3 weeks approximately, because once a week it take place itself, the committee itself. So after this committee, of course, it will require some time to get approval from some state authorities, and afterwards the protocol is issued and sent to all these organizations. So approximately 2-3 weeks.
Yes, it's like the same processing time is stated for the work permit application. So in order to mobilize a foreigner during this existing quarantine restriction, the company should consider and keep in mind 2 and 3 weeks for entry permission, 2 and 3 weeks for work permit, and approximately two weeks for work visa application. So in general, 1.5-2 months in order to travel to Kazakhstan during this quarantine period.
Yes, and here is some interesting moment. There is an interesting moment about these two procedures. You mentioned that first it is required to get this permission from IDC, but in some regions, for example, in Astana, you will not require to provide IDC permission in order to get a work permit. So these two processes can be started simultaneously. Yes, but in some regions like Achra, as far as I know, first of all, you need to get this permission, and afterwards you will be allowed to apply for work permit.
I remember this requirement is also provided while we are applying for a work visa. So the immigration department, the immigration service department, they will require the copy of the IDC entry permission protocol. So you cannot apply for a visa while you don't have any protocol approved by the committee.
Yes. For visa, of course, the migration police will require mandatory the copy of this protocol. But for work permit process in some regions of Kazakhstan, it will not be required to get this IDC permission firstly. So it can be, it can go at one time.
Okay, thank you. So let's continue. As we said before, IDC entry permission is also issued for work and business purposes, mostly for work and business purposes. But if some urgent matters like medical treatment or some private purposes, it also can be considered for granting the entry permission to foreigners traveling for this with this purpose of visit. And we would like to pay attention also that the entry permission should be applied not only to the main visa applicant or like foreign employee. If the family members dependent accompany a foreign employee in Kazakhstan, so a host entity should also apply for entry permission for the family members, usually for children and for spouse. Of course, C3 work visa is not needed if, let's say, Russian citizens traveling to Kazakhstan and their family will need to apply for temporary residence permit, so which is called RVP in Russian. So you may get acquainted with the step-by-step procedure for getting the IDC entry permission on our website. So for your convenience, you may download the information only in Russian. So please scan the QR code to get acquainted with the required step-by-step procedure. As we said before, also all travelers or all visitors traveling to Kazakhstan should provide a PCR certificate with negative COVID results. We are talking about, first of all, foreign citizens. If a foreigner doesn't have a PCR certificate but traveling to Kazakhstan, so in most cases, he will not be permitted to onboard the air flight, and he will need to take another flight and take time to get the negative COVID result. No need to apply for PCR certificate for children under 15 years old, so they're exempt from this requirement.
5 years.
Yes, it's also should be noted that the certificate has a validity period only 72 hours since date of issuance. And if there is a long distance travel from, let's say, from Latin America countries to Kazakhstan, considering some transit air flights, so you need to keep in mind that only 3 days available for the certificate, PCR certificate. So we need to consider this duration period. And if the certificate expired, so a foreign national may be deported from Kazakhstan while entering Kazakhstan with the expired certificate. We already had such kind of cases in our practice. So we see that let's say if a certificate was expired during the flight, so unfortunately the government, the border specialists will not allow to enter Kazakhstan, and they will deport you from the country. So just keep in mind that only 3 calendar days available for the certificate. Alia, if any questions, comments from your side?
No, just comment about validity of this certificate. For example, in some countries, in Russia, the validity of this certificate is starting from not from date of this issuance, but from date of the passing of this exam. So it should be noted that I think our government is more loyal in this case and accepts the certificates with 3 days validity from the date of its issuance. For example, if a foreigner submitted the exam, for example, on the 5th of January and received this certificate on 6th of January, so this 72 hours should be started from the 6th of January, as it is date of issuance.
And also, if you're traveling from different countries, and of course, the certificate is provided in English, so no need to translate the document into Russian or Kazakh while traveling with PCR certificate prepared in English. So the border control service, they accept PCR certificates without any translation if the document's issued in English. If, let's say, the document was issued, let's say, in other language like Spanish or French, so the inviting company should prepare the standard translation of the documents and to provide this information to the border control specialist. So Alia, please let me know if whether the notarization of this translation is required or not, whether it is only needed to translate it and just to put a company signature or stamp and just to provide the translated document. So how it works in practice?
Yes, of course, there is no official requirement about this translation. Therefore, of course, it is preferable if you provide authorized translation. But since you will be leaving from this country to Kazakhstan, and you will probably will not have enough time to go to Notary Public, or due to COVID, maybe your country is in lockdown. So therefore, maybe in some case, of course, electronic translations can be accepted. But if you have time, it is advisable to have this authorized translation into English or into Russian or Kazakh. Or maybe you can require from this medical center to issue the certificate in 2 languages. So I think in the most of countries, English language can be also used for such documents while issuing.
Okay, just yes, to sum up, 3 calendar days, 74 hours for the validity of the PCR certificate. And if for Kazakhstan citizens, if there is no any PCR certificate, so they will be quarantine isolation for 2 days. For foreign citizens, no isolation. So they will be deported for, and even they will not be permitted to on board their aircraft while traveling to Kazakhstan.
And one more thing about residence permit holders. I think we also have these questions about this PCR test. That residence permit holders in Kazakhstan are also considered as foreigners. Therefore, they will also require this PCR test, because in previous requirements, I think during summer, it was not required for residence permit holders to provide the certificate, but due to changes in September or October, in
the beginning of October, yes.
Yes, so residence permit holders also require to provide this PCR certificate during arrival to Kazakhstan.
Yes, and there is also, of course, there is no any, let's say, all individuals traveling to Kazakhstan should provide PCR certificate. There were some exemptions previously, like for in place of the embassies, foreign delegations, foreign international organizations like UNDP or World Bank. So everyone should provide PCR test while traveling to Kazakhstan under the existing requirements. Returning back to the residence permit holders, there is a restriction on entering and crossing the country during the period of stay. So there is a rule, 90 days rule, which means that residence permit holders and their family members, as well as foreigners who are family members of the Kazakhstan citizens, they can travel to Kazakhstan. And if they want to, let's say, to travel back and return back, to travel and return back after some period of time, they can return back only after 90 days since their last departure. Let's imagine, for example, a foreigner with a residence permit entered Kazakhstan on 1st of January, stayed for some period of time, let's say till 15th of February, and decided to travel to his home country for some short period of time. So it doesn't mean that he can travel back, let's say, after a few days or few weeks. He needs to wait 90 days since his last departure on February 15th. And this is a requirement that applies only to residence permit holders, their family members, and also for foreigners who are family members of the Kazakhstan citizens. If a residence permit holder or family members as well have IDC entry permission for multiple entries, so this rule will not apply to residence permit holders and family members. So if you need, let's say, if you have a foreign employee with a residence permit and he needs to travel to Kazakhstan several times, so you need to apply for IDC permission for multiple entries and exits, just to be informed about this requirement. And we are now at the slide of the departure from Kazakhstan. So there were some changes in the end of 2020. So the Interdepartmental Committee decided to extend the permitted period of departure of foreigners without any violation and without any imposition of the administrative fines. So the permitted period of departure was extended till 5th June 2021. So there were several extensions of this period, starting from March 2020 till July 2020, then till August, then till November, and until January, and now till 5th of June 2020. It means that foreigners having, let's say, documents which were expired during the period of stay in Kazakhstan, like a Kazakhstan visa or residence permit or passport. So they are allowed to leave the country without any penalties until 5th of June 2021. It means, like, for example, if there is no any direct flights to a country and still your home country is closed for, let's say, for all travelers, visitors, and you cannot reach your home country, you still stay here in Kazakhstan, and your visa, let's say, was expired, or your passport was already expired or any other document like residence permit. So it means that you have time till 5th of June to book your flight to your home country and to arrange your return to the country of citizenship. But if you plan to stay after 5th of June, you need to consider the following requirements. So you will be needed to apply for work permits and work visa of C3 category. And in case of reunion visa for family members, you need to apply for C2 visa. It means that only two purposes are available for the further extension of period of stay of the foreigners. If, let's say, you have your business visa expired in Kazakhstan during this period of time, you will not be able to extend the business visa till after June 5th, 2020. So you need to leave the country, and you can leave the country without any penalties. But if, let's say, you during this period of time you decided to find a job here, and you received a labor contract, and the company, the host entity, received a work permit for you, so you can change your work, you can change your business visa to work visa, and it can be done until 5th of June. So just keep in mind that you have some period of time to decide whether to leave the country or whether to stay. And if you want to stay, so you just only two purposes are available for you in this regard. Alia, any comments you would like to
Yes,
add?
I think it's important also to note about the administrative penalties in case if your documents expired and you are planning to extend your stay here in Kazakhstan, for example, to you get new contract and would like to obtain work visa in Kazakhstan till 5th of June. Of course, your employer will submit your document to the migration police, but you need to note here that there will be administrative penalties in this case, because this permission to leave Kazakhstan without any penalties works only in case of departure from Kazakhstan, but not in cases when you plan to extend your stay with expired documents. So in case if you decided anyway to stay in Kazakhstan and extend your stay here with expired documents, there will be some administrative penalties according to the Code of Administrative Penalties. It's 517th code and 518th for legal entities. So you just need to keep in mind this important note about these penalties. So I think here you will need to discuss this first of all with your employer. If your employee is ready to take this responsibility and pay this penalty, and afterwards, of course, you can stay here in Kazakhstan, extend your visa or registration, etc.
And also, it should be noted that it's not like immigration amnesty, which was provided to foreign nationals starting from March 2020 till November 2020. So this is not a migration amnesty. So we had a case when a foreigner, a citizen of Turkey, asked us about the question whether he is allowed to stay in Kazakhstan with the expired period of visa-free stay. So he wanted to come to Kazakhstan for 30 days without any visa and stay till 5th of June without any extension and etc. And closer to this date, he wanted to visit the immigration office to extend the period of stay. So there will be penalties for such kind of actions, definitely. But if he decides to travel to Kazakhstan, he needs to keep in mind that he needs to exit Kazakhstan till this period of time, till 5th of June. So it doesn't mean that he can stay here, let's say, starting from January till June. So he needs to travel back to Kazakhstan, or to travel back to his home country, and not to extend his period of stay until after June 5th. So just some different cases. And I just wanted to add also that it's not like a migration amnesty. So penalties will apply depending on the cases of the foreign employees. So now also we would like to pay attention that the C2 and C3 visa can be issued without taking into account the initial stated purpose of visit of a foreign citizen. For example, if, as I said before, if a foreigner has say business visa, and then this time he applied for work permit, and he applies for work visa C3. So no problems with getting visa locally in Kazan. So the migration office will issue and grant visa without any problems, and also without any taking into account the initial stated purpose of visa. So even if, let's say, a foreigner has had a tourist visa, can change the visa category to a C3 visa.
So Anwar, yes, thank you.
Yes.
If you finish, let's go ahead with our Q&A session, because we are running out of time. Yes, let's start from our first question. As we noted, these questions were sent to us during the registration. Okay, Anwar, so first question.
Yes, let me first of all add, we received different kind of questions from the foreign employees, from the host entities, inviting organizations, and we provide online consultations to foreign employees related to employment activities, to visa issues, also including family members. So you may order online consultation on our website if you have any questions. Also, if you have any additional questions after our webinar, you may address your questions and so visit our website to get the personal online consultation. So let's start the Q&A session. So from the first question. So and I think that we will have 5-10 minutes to raise up the questions from the Zoom.
Yes, and we have some in our questions chat, so we will try to cover all of them. So let's start. First question is any information available for IDCs removing from the requirements, as we heard that from 2021 it is not required? Yes, there are a lot of rumors about this IDC, because by the end of last year there were some news about cancellation of IDC automatically in case if it was issued last year. So no, IDC entry permission is required until our government lifts the required quarantine restrictions, because as you understand, this IDC was implemented especially for the quarantine regime. Therefore, as soon as it is removed and from Kazakhstan, from lifted from quarantine restrictions, will be also cancelled. That's why during these quarantine restrictions, during this COVID situation, during the closure of borders of Kazakhstan, the IDC requirement will be in place, will be effective, and will be required.
So yes, just to confirm, there is no, let's say, official information that you don't need to apply for IDC this year. So if you need your foreign employees or foreign workers to travel to Kazakhstan, so you need to apply for IDC if it is applicable in your case. If you already received IDC last year and it was issued for multiple entries, so you may use this IDC entry permission in 2021. So it will be valid during this year until the government decides whether to lift the quarantine restrictions or not. So the next question, So are Russian citizens allowed to enter Kazakhstan from Belarus, Turkey, in case if there are no direct flights available from Moscow to Nur-Sultan? So according to the procedure for citizens of 12 countries, they may they may use direct or transit flights through these mentioned 12 countries. So we confirm that Russian citizens may travel to Kazakhstan by a transit flight from, let's say, Belarus or Turkey. It doesn't matter. So no current restrictions and limits. Next question.
Next question. Is there any change in existing procedure for foreign visitors traveling to Kazakhstan regarding PCR testing, duration of IDC protocol, and etc.? No, there is no such change. Everything is the same. The requirements is the same. In terms of this mentioned points, is PCR test, protocol, etc. still required. So no changes in this regard. The changes were about extension of stay of foreigners in Kazakhstan with expired documents. But in terms of PCR testing and IDC protocol, the requirements are still the same in 2021.
We'll definitely hold another webinar whether on future changes, so whether the government decides to lift the quarantine restrictions or whether to let's say PCR testing or IDC entry permission will not be required anymore. So we'll definitely let you know about those changes in the future. The next question, is it allowed for a national of the Eurasian Economic Union member state to enter the country 2 or more times using the same special permits for entry? Yes, it is allowed for citizens of these countries to enter 2 or 3 times, but you need to keep in mind that the host entity should apply for a multiple entry IDC permission. So if there is no any multiple entry IDC permission, so a foreigner cannot travel to Kazakhstan 2 or more times. You need first of all to apply for multiple IDC permission. So just double check whether you have already applied for multiple entry or you just applied for single entry permission. Next question.
If a foreigner is allowed to enter Kazakhstan by plane, can he enter the country by car based on the special entry permit? Or is he obliged to enter Kazakhstan by plane only if flights with his country of nationality are open? Yes, of course, a foreigner is allowed to enter Kazakhstan also by another types of transport, but in this case, the host entity or inviting organization has to apply for IDC entry permission, which will allow him to enter Kazakhstan by any transport, whether it's plane or vehicle. So just to summarize, if you are a foreign citizen, you are obliged to enter Kazakhstan, even if flights with your country of nationality are open. So it will not limit you to enter Kazakhstan with airplane only. So even if there is a resumed flight with your country, you can also travel by car. But in this case, you will will require to get this entry permission from IDC.
I would like to add that in practice, there is some cases when, let's say, Russian citizens traveling 50-50, traveling by airplane to Kazakhstan, but returning, let's say, to Russia by car, by transport. So if they're traveling by airplane, direct flight from Moscow, for example, or from Omsk, it doesn't matter. So no IDC permission is required. But if a foreign citizen from Russia uses transport, so the host entity should apply for IDC permission, definitely. So usually, like say subcontractors, contractors of the major oil and gas companies in western part. So there's some cases when Russian citizens traveling from Astrakhan, from Orenburg, from let's say from Samara by transport. So the company should apply for IDC permission definitely. If by airplane, no need. So next question. Some installation work may be done in Kazakhstan under the business visitor status. What is the impact of the COVID-19 restrictions on the visa-free business travel for short-term assignment purposes? So as we mentioned before, visa-free regime visa waiver is suspended until 1st May 2021. So foreigners will be required to apply for visa. In your case, it is business visa of B2 category for installation work. And also, you should keep in mind that an additional IDC entry permission will be required to travel to Kazakhstan for a foreign citizen. Next question.
UK citizen needs to make a short trip to Atrau for business meetings. The trip is provisionally planned for 5-7 days. What are the current requirements for PCR tests, visas, and other of any? So the requirements are the same. We have no direct flights with UK, therefore, first of all, of course, you will need, your inviting organization will need to get IDC permission. Afterwards, it will be required to apply for visa. And upon your arrival, you'll need to provide a PCR test, which is valid for 72 hours from the date of issuance. So the requirements are still the same. So no any other requirements. And since we're talking about these business meetings, as Anwar mentioned in his previous slide, if it is for business meetings, of course, you need to consider B3 visa for multiple or for single entry. And it is also need to note it in the application for this IDC permission, whether you need multiple entries or single entry. It is very important because in case of getting this permission for one entry, single entry, the foreigner will not be able to arrive in Kazakhstan next time using this permission.
And also it is recommended to indicate all the regions a foreigner plans to visit. For example, not only Atirau or Astana or Almaty, and having some business trips to Uralsk or any other regions of Kazakhstan. So the host entity should indicate these regions of trips in the application form for the IDC entry permission. So next question, can the IDC entry permission be obtained for a foreigner who wishes to visit Kazakhstan for business purposes, for attending negotiations with business partner in Kazakhstan? Yes, IDC is required. So not only for purposes like attending business negotiations, but also contract conclusion, provision of consulting services, and also as usually practice shows, holding and organizing some trainings or participating in some business meetings and centers. So IDC is still required.
Next question. Does temporary residence permit, if it is, for example, issued for 1 year, remain valid if the permit holder exits and after some time returns to Kazakhstan? So here we are talking about the temporary residence permit. So this is not permanent residence permit, which is VNG or pink card. So we're talking about temporary residence permit, which is usually issued to countries of
CIS countries,
post-Soviet Union countries, for example, Russia, Belarus, and this temporary residence permit is was implemented last year, which was implemented instead of passport registration, and if foreign citizen leaves Kazakhstan with temporary residence permit. Next time when he arrives to Kazakhstan, of course, he will need to update and get new temporary residence permit, because in case of departure from Kazakhstan, it will be cancelled and the foreign national will need to get new residence, temporary residence permit upon arrival to Kazakhstan. Upon arrival in Kazakhstan.
Yes, every time you travel back to your home country and you return back to Kazakhstan, so you need to update the temporary residence permit, and it can be updated only by the application of the host entity, inviting organization. In person, you cannot do this. I mean, if we, let's say, if we are a foreign employee working on the employment agreement with in Kazakhstan, so the company, your employer should submit this application to the immigration office.
Yes,
so
and it is also important to add also about the notification of arrival, which is also required each time when you leave Kazakhstan and arrive back. So this is the also mandatory requirement to notify local migration police about your stay here in Kazakhstan, about changing of your address, or when you travel to other regions of Kazakhstan within 3 business days from the date of your arrival. So these 2 procedures are mandatory in case of your staying in Kazakhstan.
And yes, the last question from the Q&A session is how to do online immigration registration, which means submission of the notification when expat goes to another city inside Kazakhstan, within how many days he or she should be registered. So if we're talking about the passport registration, so it can be done within 30 days. If we're talking about the submission of notification, so only 3 business days since the arrival date of a foreigner in Kazakhstan, or for submitted. And it can be done in written form by submitting a letter to the immigration office, but usually most preferable option is submission of the notification letter through the visa migration portal, vmp .gov.kz. So the company should be registered in this web portal, and then use the opportunity to submit the online notification within 3 business days. If a foreigner travels to other regions, for example, from Atyrau, let's say, to Astana for 1, for 2 or 3 days, it doesn't matter how many days. So the company should submit the notification letter, even if 1 day of business trip, or even if, let's say, 2-3 weeks of business trip. So the company should submit this notification letter within this stated period, 3 business days.
Yes.
So, yes.
So I just wanted to add that sometimes there are some technical issues with this portal. In this case, yes, your application cannot be accepted by portal. So in this case, the company, your inviting organization or inviting person has to submit notification physically by visiting the migration police office during these 3 days. So it is our recommendation to start thinking about submission of this notification from the first day of arrival of a foreigner in Kazakhstan, because in case of such technical issues, you'll need time to prepare this letter, to sign it by director of your organization, and visit the migration police.
So we are now can consider the questions submitted via Zoom platform. So we have 10 maximum 10 minutes. Let's start from, so mostly they're the same questions as we considered before. First of all, I've missed the presentation at the beginning. Would you please advise whether European Union citizens require visa freedom is suspended? Thus, European Union citizens require visa to enter Kazakhstan. So I have another question. My 5 years old daughter is US citizen. Every year I apply for annual C11 visa. It's yes, it is issued for children. In order to justify her stay in Kazakhstan, we have just applied for a new visa and have received a 5-year C11 visa until her passport expires. Total surprise. What there is a change in legislation recently? C11 visas now issued on the term of passport validity. No, there were no any changes officially regarding the validity period of visa. According to the visa regulations, C11 visa is issued for up to 3 years. I don't know now, what was the reason for the immigration office to issue a visa for 5-year period, but I believe that maybe it is issued for 5 years because of the bilateral agreement between the US and Kazakhstan governments regarding the issuance of 10 years visas. So it means that Kazakhstan citizens may apply for US visas for 10 years period, and US citizens may apply for Kazakhstan visas for 10 years period. That's why I believe that the visa was issued until the expiry date of the passport for 5-year period. Also, please explain the next question. Do you see the question, Leah?
Yes, so you're reading from question Q&A chat, yes? Because here are also questions in chat. So if you just continue with your question, Q&A questions chat, then I will continue with chat. Yeah, agreed?
Yes, just the Zoom platform. So I read the questions from the Zoom. So I see that there's still questions about the IDC.
Here is a good question about PCR test from Aygul. Do you know if electronic version of PCR certificate can be shown on the phone or it must be printed out? So yes, it was confirmed that you can show, the foreigners can show electronic version of PCR certificate if it is in the phone or on another devices. So it can be shown electronically. It's okay, no need to print it out if you have some issues with this. Next question is, are C3 visa holders also limited to restriction of entering once every 90 days? No, C3 visa holders are not limited with these restrictions. They can enter Kazakhstan multiple times, but in this case, your host entity, your inviting organization has to obtain permission from IDC for multiple entries. So there is no limitations. Once in 90 days, you just need to get this permission from IDC department, IDC committee.
Yes, there's a question whether there's any official written procedure for obtaining IDC permission. Yes, it's a question from Kuben. This is the written algorithm of the obtaining IDC permission. So you may visit our website, the library section, to get acquainted with the written procedure for IDC protocol. Also, the question about the IDC protocol, whether it is required to obtain a special permit for German citizens. As we said before, Germany is in the list of the 12 countries Kazakhstan has resumed direct air flight with, so German citizens do not require any IDC permission to travel to Kazakhstan. So we confirm this, no need. And there is also a question. I will continue if you don't mind.
Yes.
There's a question about whether you can help me with the explanation of the difference between work with is the actual license, which gives you a right to work in Kazakhstan and the right to conclude a labor agreement with your employer in Kazakhstan. Work visa is the document which allows you to different documents. If there is let's say, exemption for you, not apply for work permit, you can apply only for work visa, but there's some few exemptions. But mostly foreign citizens need to apply first of all for work permit and then apply for work visa to enter Kazakhstan. If you are, let's say, a citizen of one of the CIS countries, let's say like Azerbaijan or Uzbekistan, you will need only work permits. No need to apply for work visa. For European countries, for citizens of US or Canada or Korea and Japan, they need work permits and work visa to work and stay in Kazakhstan.
Here is also an interesting question from Baskar.
Yes,
Baskar here. I am a residence permit holder. I left Kazakhstan in March 2020. I couldn't come back due to corona pandemic restriction. I have crossed 180 days out of Kazakhstan from the day of departure. Kindly until before which day I must enter Kazakhstan to prevent loss of residence permit. About calculation of these 190 days, yes, there was also amnesty in regards of these 180 days, which was valid from March and was valid till 1st of November. So even if you left Kazakhstan in March of 2020 and was out of Kazakhstan till 1st of November, the calculation of these 180 days will not be taken into account. This calculation of 180 days will be started from 1st of November of the last year. So in case if you are still out of Kazakhstan, as I understand you are still out of Kazakhstan, you need to start counting from 1st of November and make sure that you will not exceed these 180 days from this date. I think it is approximately May, yes, Anwar? May, beginning of May, if we start calculation from 1st of November, so November, December, January, February, March,
yes,
April. So yes, you need to arrive back in Kazakhstan by at least at April in order to be on safe side and not to cancel your residence permit, because if you exceed these 180 days staying out of Kazakhstan, of course your residence permit will be cancelled. So therefore, you just need to make sure that you will not exceed these days. And start to calculate it from the 1st of November of last year, because from March
so problems with the internet connection. So two more last questions. So as I asked during the registration, on which document basis Russian citizens can enter to Kazakhstan via transit flights? As we said before, there's no any restriction for citizens in the beginning or maybe of October. So it is official that Russian citizens may enter Kazakhstan via transit flights, not only, let's say, from Moscow, but also from Turkey or from Belarus. Doesn't matter. So I think that people losing connection, so some bad internet connection right now. And let's consider last question. Is there any needs to indicate exact number of planned entries, exits when applying for multiple entry IDC permission? It's only up to your decision whether the exact numbers, but usually there's some business trips over for 2 entries IDC permission. If you need more than 2, just indicate the multiple entry IDC permission request to indicate multiple, but for one, so we can indicate it single or two entries IDC permission. So I think that's where okay.
Yes, the participants.
Alia, maybe you can add
Yes,
something. So I think that we can. Yes.
Yes, unfortunately, we're running out of time. So this is close out today's seminar. We hope that we covered all important migration issues, and hope that it was helpful for everyone. Thank you for your participation, for your active participation, for your questions, for your very, very interesting cases, and have a great weekend. Have a great evening. Today is Friday. Have a great evening today. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and take care, and keep in touch, and goodbye, everyone.